So what's up, people, and welcome to the Chapter 4 and 5 discussion of Choujin X. Sui Ishida, considering that he wasn't going to bring out chapters on a regular basis and he wanted to kind of kick back and bring them out in his own schedule, has been bringing out chapters left and right. He's been very quick in bringing out continuing chapters. So I am very happy. And Chapter 4 came out about a week and a half ago, and 5 came out a few days ago. And so he's been pumping them out quite a bit. And I'll be leaving the link to both Chapters 4 and 5 in the description section of this video. So if you're interested, go take a look at it. So, Chapter 4 was quite interesting. If you recall, in Chapter 3, we got a little bit more understanding of Tokyo and Azuma. Azuma has become a little bit cold to Tokyo ever since he's turned into that vulture sort of character. And Tokyo has become a little bit self-conscious because of that. He's not exactly sure why Azuma has become so cold, considering they were so close up till that time. And so Chapter 4 takes up exactly at that time. He's still in his kind of depressed state because Azuma has given him a cold shoulder. And also, he hasn't been able to revert back to his human form, which of course is giving him severe problems. He can't go to school. He's having to hide out from even his family. And he's always wearing all these clothes to, cover himself up from his identity. And so, with all these problems, we get into Chapter 4, and we see Tokyo self-reflecting in this situation. He's realized that he's always relied on Azuma for a lot of his help. And now that Azuma is gone, he's realizing just how helpless he is without him. He's been doing everything based upon what Azuma wanted to do. He's always kind of followed whatever Azuma did. He's never really had to make life decisions by himself. And so by that alone, he's already having difficulty with his life. But of course, with all these mounting problems and with Azuma gone, he's really self-reflecting and wondering if there is any use in his existence. And that's when we get back into the absurdity that Sui Ishida has been doing with this story. And this is very characteristic of Sui Ishida. We're back to the kind of the dark situations again, but we're going into some of the comedic, absurd situations. And so the advice that Tokyo gets is from, of all characters, a couple of pigeons. A couple of pigeons that were standing around in the park eating bread that he's been feeding them suddenly go up and go, "Hey, you're not as worthless as you look. To us, you're just a great pal because you provide bread to us." And of course, Tokyo does a double take and says, "You guys are speaking to me?" And they said, "Of course, you are our pal. You are our bread atelier. And so for us, you are a very vital character." And so he gets a pep talk from a bunch of pigeons. And again, this is very characteristic of Sui Ishida in many of his stories. And so through these pigeons, he gets interesting advice. They basically say, well, if you always relied on Azuma, then even if Azuma isn't here, why don't you just consider what Azuma would do under your predicament? And so that was enough for Tokyo to say, maybe I should start making decisions, and since I use Azuma as a role model, maybe even if he isn't here, I will do so. And so the first thing he realizes is he has to get back to his human form again. And so for the next few days, he's trying really hard to transform back, but nothing is working. And that's when he realizes that maybe because he has turned into a vulture form, he should go ask advice from a vulture, since now he knows how to talk to birds. But the only vulture that he knows is in the city zoo. And so he goes running over there, and he finds out that the zoo has closed. I don't know if it's for the day or if it's permanently. And so he's really dejected because he can't get into the facilities to talk to the vulture. And it's at that time that we get introduction to a new character, an unnamed young lady. And he notices her staring at the zoo as well. And the first thing he realizes is that it's a very pretty girl. And it's the type of girl that he would not be able to approach. He is such a shy character that it was always the type of girl that he was interested in, but not able to approach. And so he goes back into trying to figure out what to do when the girl actually comes up to him and says, if you really want to get into the zoo, there is this opening in the fence to actually go through. And so he decides that he will take her advice and goes through, and he finds out that the girl is coming in as well. And so this results in a somewhat awkward moment for Tokyo because he's not really sure how to act in front of the girl that he finds quite attractive. And so while he's running around trying to figure out how to deal with this problem, he's also running around wondering why this girl is following him. And eventually he tells her that he needs to go see the vulture exhibit. And of all things, her talking with a snake gives her the ability to tell him where that vulture exhibit is. So it continues on where he goes to talk with the vulture, and for whatever reason the vulture is ignoring him. And the chapter ends in a way that we kind of expected. Since the girl knows how to talk with a snake, just like Tokyo knows how to talk with a bird, we find out that at the end, she turns out to be a Choujin as well, and she turns out to be a snake beast character. And of course, one of the biggest food staples for a snake are birds. And so the chapter scene ends with this sort of situation, and we move on to chapter 5. And chapter 5 is basically Tokyo continuously running away from this lady character, and this lady character constantly catching up to him. Now, this is very interesting. This situation reminded me very much of Kaneki and Rize in the very beginning of Tokyo Ghoul, how Rize went after Kaneki when she transformed into her ghoul persona. But the difference, I would say, is this is a little bit more lighthearted. It is dark, it's quite violent, but it takes it in a kind of a ridiculous, absurd situation again, similar to how he was talking with birds. And so there's a little bit of a Monty Python-esque sort of feel to a lot of the drama that goes on with Choujin X, which you didn't see with Tokyo Ghoul. Tokyo Ghoul was a very dark manga, and it took itself quite seriously, especially during the violent situations. Here it's a violent situation, but there's a bit of ridiculousness and satire in this whole situation with Tokyo. And so I'm not sure if it's deliberate. I got a feeling it is. And maybe Choujin X is going to be a little bit lighthearted compared to Tokyo Ghoul, which might be a good thing considering how dark Tokyo Ghoul is. But in any case, this entire chapter is, Tokyo running around trying to get away. And of course, since he is not familiar with his Choujin powers yet, but she is, she continuously catches him. Now what we find out is that she was hired by that guy who basically gave the Choujin serum to Johnny Kiyoshi and then later killed him. Since he knew that it was a bird Choujin, he basically told this lady to go after and find this character. And that's one of the reasons why she was standing in front of the zoo. She basically approached him, not the other way around. And so now with this being an assignment, it's not just a taunting like Rize did with Kaneki, but it actually is a job. But it doesn't stop her from taunting Tokyo and bullying him a little bit and making fun of him while she eventually will kill him. But at that moment, something comes falling out of the sky. And no, it's not a building like it was in Tokyo Ghoul where a building fell on top of Rize. But it turns out to be a character that smashes herself right into Tokyo. And when he gets up, he realizes that that character turns out to be Ellie. So now we have the crossing of the two stories, and we probably will know that both these characters will probably play a role in the future story. And since she was getting away from that other smoke dude, I got a feeling that other evil smoke dude will be coming out in the coming chapters. But this chapter ends with the two of them getting together. And it'll be interesting to see how this moves along. So now we know why Ellie was introduced. And probably Tokyo will still be the main character, but Ellie will turn out to be a very close supporting character to him. And this is bringing in and combining a much more complex situation. And it'll be interesting to see if that evil smoke dude has any association with the snake lady and that mysterious dude that gave the serum in the first place. There doesn't have to be. There may be multiple evil factions in Choujin X, similar to what it was in Tokyo Ghoul, with the clowns and the Algiri tree and the doctor and all that. They were all kind of separate. Here, it may be the same sort of thing. And so it'll be interesting to see how it goes. And when Chapter 6 comes out, which I kind of expect maybe soon, considering Sui Ishida's writing so much, then I will bring up another video. And thank you very much for watching this one, and hope you join me in the next one. And until then, happy manga reading, and as always, Jaya, nice day, everyone.